Hello, everyone. It is 5:30 in Arizona, 4:30 on the Pacific Coast. That would mean 6:30 Mountain Time and 7:30 East Coast. And it's time to train with the coaches. This is SheriAnne, head coach at PRS Fit, and I have a wonderful guest with us today. She's the 2013 Female Ultra Runner of the Year, Michele Yates. So welcome and thank you for being here with us, Michele.
Thank you.
You have a very exciting time in your life right now. So tell us a little bit about what has recently occurred in your life.
Well, I was blessed with a beautiful baby girl, and her name is Maya Jo, and she just turned 3 months a few days ago, actually. So that has been a very big part of my life right now.
I can see all the pictures that you post of her. She's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
So tell me, what has that adjustment been like for you?
Oh, wow. It's definitely challenging. The most challenging, hardest thing that I've ever done in my life is obviously become a mother, and then also just absolutely do my best at trying to do everything else, because obviously she's the priority, and then everything else filters in. The good thing is God has blessed me with the talent of being a multitasker, and I'm doing a pretty good job, although I am on the hunt for a nanny for some part-time help, because I think that my training would be better quality right now if I just had that little bit of help and I wasn't so stubborn and not taking help. So.
Okay, so being a mom of 3, I can totally relate to you, because it's hard, because you want them to be your priority, and they are your priority, but you also have this other passion that you absolutely love and do not want to deny. And so
Right.
it's finding that balance.
It's your happy place. So if you don't have that place to go to, I think it can be pretty miserable. And obviously, like I said, it's been pretty challenging. So there's been times when I've been pretty depressed in the last few months because, you know, it's just she's had a really rough night. I'm way too exhausted to go running, yet I still have this pressure that I put on myself. Nobody else has, because she's obviously only 3 months, but I put this pressure on myself to be able to perform, and I feel like I'm fully capable of training and I'm healthy and the birth and everything went well, so I want to perform and I want to go to these races and I want to be in my happy place, but there's definitely something, obviously she pulls you back from some of that, so you just have to find that balance, I think.
Balance is huge. I think that's the biggest thing I talk to a lot of my athletes about, is having that balance. So when you have those like off days, and you're like just too tired, or just the weight of having a family and kids and that and whatnot. So what do you do to kind of help you get over that hump of that day of like, oh, I just don't have it today?
A little bit of caffeine, particularly Bing. It's a energy drink, kind of natural energy drink, I guess, made here right in Colorado. And I have a little bit of that. And then I also, a good motivator for me always, pregnancy or not, or postpartum, has been to watch videos of either the race that I'm going to do next, or just inspirational videos. The short little YouTube ones kind of give me a good kick in the butt to get out there. But there are times when you just have to listen to your body, and if you're that exhausted, then you rest. And it's, I'm not going to be 100%, 3 months after pregnancy, but I'm going to fight for it and I'm going to try. So, just recognize that, because otherwise you'll just hurt yourself. And then if you're miserable, then she's miserable, then you're doing everything wrong. So.
So true. But you got to, it's funny, because my house is always like, happy house, happy mom, happy house. And it's like they know exactly what I need to be happy. And it's funny, they all know that going and getting in a run is one thing that will make me happy. It's like, but you're all right. Sometimes you just have to listen to your body. But You know, it's so funny because you're in the last 3 months. Yeah, you're coming back from having a baby, which, you know, postpartum is very interesting because it your body has to make a lot of adjustments. You have to make a lot of emotional adjustments, time adjustments, all kinds of things. But yet you still seem to completely, you know, toe the line at a race here in Arizona, which I almost went and did Black Canyon, but I didn't. And I kind of wish I would have. But you toed the line at that race. You know, I think I loved reading your blog about that race, and that you were kind of like, okay, you know, am I ready? I think I'm ready. You know, and you tested your limits, and I admire you for that. You know, but what was it like, you know, coming out of having a baby and getting ready to go do a rather large event that you had a big goal for, because you were gunning for a Western States qualifying spot for that?
Yep. Well, you know, I did feel like I was ready. Ready enough is probably a good answer. I knew that I wouldn't be 100%. Obviously, my body wasn't 100%, you know, lean, mean running machine, but I thought I did a pretty good job, and I felt really solid, and I actually had some great workouts leading up to it. Even some of the most highest volume I've actually reached ever in my career, and I was surprised when I did those. But I also had some cardio cross training mixed in there, which I don't typically do a whole lot of. Obviously, when I'm training for something really serious, it's majority of it is running. So when I toed the line, of course I put pressure on myself, though. I definitely wanted that WS spot, and I really felt like, you know, that I could do it even if I wasn't 100%. So, you know, obviously as the race unfolded, I quickly realized that my pelvis wasn't maybe quite as ready as I had anticipated, and that's when I got into trouble. You know, I was like a good 20 miles in, or maybe it was even 30 miles in or something like that, and we had just done all the descending part, and it was a little more technical than I had actually expected. Even though I've actually run those trails out there, and I've run in UNLV, which have this, or out in Vegas, which have the same trails. But anyways, my pelvis became very fatigued, you know, after about 20 miles, and I tripped and I took a really hard fall, and I realized the reason why that happened was because I'm trying to multitask with the pelvis is like weaker than normal, and trying to do all this stuff that I normally do when I'm 100%, and I really should have just stayed focused and, you know, maybe on the easy parts, you know, that's when I should have went for my gels and this and that, because that one fall took me right out of the race basically. And then, you know, I've rebounded now though, so I'm gonna make a go for actually Gorge Waterfalls 100K. So I'll go for my WS again at the end of this month, and I am already so much stronger in that pelvis region, and I've got great doctors, so they've helped me along through this, and they've explained kind of what my ligaments are doing and the reason why I really couldn't finish, and it had, you know, nothing to do with how great I felt and how much I wanted it. It was, you know, it's just my body has to catch up with my mind.
It's amazing what the mind can do, can help you endure too as well. So just, you know, for our listeners' sake that don't really know who Michele Yates is, give us, you know, I'm going to back up a little bit, so I'm going to kind of rewind, and I wish I would have done this earlier so that people can get a picture of who you are, because, I mean, your resume is absolutely stunning and amazing to me. So, but let's go back to, so you raced for UNLV, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And
actually played collegiate soccer my first 2 years, and then I switched over to running.
And why did you do that?
Soccer was one of those things that no matter how much you busted your butt, if the whole team didn't bust their butt, you were going nowhere, and it was really frustrating to me. And actually, my master plan at that time was, well, I can play collegiate soccer and I can do road races on the side. And I did, but the coach didn't really care for that so much. And then I just realized that running being an individual sport, but as well as a team sport, you know, that the running scene just embraces everybody very well. So.
Oh, it does. Yeah, I love the running scene. So after UNLV, so go ahead and bring us up to date. You know, like, tell me, here, we'll do this. Tell me your most favorite memorable races.
Okay.
A
Well,
lot.
yeah. So after UNLV, I actually asked my brother to loan me $1,000 and help me move to Colorado. So then that's where I've been for the last 10 years. And with his help, I've pursued running and all of that, and started off with marathons, and then I actually just started doing ultra trail racing in 2013. Those were pretty much my first races. I actually did my first one in 2012. I just did one with my best girlfriend as a girls' weekend. It happened to be the 50-mile national championships, and it was just a bucket list thing, going down there and gonna have a good time and see what this 50-miler is all about. And I did really well, and I loved it. Of course, I just absolutely fell in love with it. So from there, and then 2013, it's hard for me to say the most memorable, but I know that Run Rabbit Run was in 2013 because I was still very underestimated, and at that time I had already won 3 national championships. Granted, now there's so many options that the competition is spread out. So a lot of people, say, well, she didn't have any competition at this race, or there was only a few ladies at this race, or, and then I won Indiana outright, and that still didn't convince them. So when I went into Run Rabbit Run, I was coming in for the win, and I wanted to really do well, and I did, and I ended up beating several of the best elite women like Nikki Kimball and just the women that I looked up to and respected, and obviously who have made the sport as what it is. And I did really well, and I think I got some people's attention with that. But then it was also the most challenging for me too. You're running through the mountains at night, and I ran primarily by myself. We went through snow and rain and thunderstorm and warm weather, so that was one of my most memorable. And then following up with that was the North Face, when I had probably the most stacked women's field ever, and I got to go against Magdalena Louis Boulet, who was an Olympic marathoner, who I've actually raced in the road marathon portion of my life too. So I got to redeem myself against her and beat her on the trail, where she could kick my butt in the road marathon, and did really well there too, which was a little bit of a surprise for me as well, just because it was the end of the year and I had a long year, so I wasn't expecting to really come out banging like I did, but I'm very happy and pleased with it. So, I believe in God, and I feel like He made me strong enough to get it done, and I hope He continues to do that. So,
It's kind of like you have a gift and you want to share it with people. So that's awesome. So at the end of this year, though, you're going to do another road marathon in pursuit of what?
the Olympic trials again. I've participated in 2 Olympic trials, the 2008 and 2012. 2008, I was still very young. I think I was like the second youngest lady out there, and I was just thrilled that I had made it. So that was just a learning experience. I was like 20 something. I remember.
Yeah.
And then 2012, though, I actually ended up with a foot injury a few months prior. So that unfortunately kind of depleted my chances of hopefully making the team, or even coming close. Granted, I did what I could there at that time as well. So now, I'll be in my mid-30s. They say that that's your prime and everything, so I'd really like to go for Olympic trials again for 2016. And honestly, there's no bears or mountain lions or mountains or anything like that anymore, so I feel like the transition will be really easy for me, and hopefully I'll be able to keep that speed and turnover with some speed drills and hopefully give them a run for their money.
So your marathon PR is amazing. It's 2:38 for those of you that don't know. That is fast. And so what is your goal for this year? Are you wanting to even PR that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the competition is well below those marks now, and I ran that in 2009, and that's kind of, when I started to phase out the marathon scene for myself, and I had some good marathons in there, but I really was starting to toy around with trails and the shorter distance, the mountain trail team, and all that kind of stuff, before I went into the ultra trail scene. But I would definitely say I'd have to run a sub 235 in order to even be competitive, and I think that my potential probably would tap me out right around that 230 mark. But whether or not I would reach that this year with the other goals and plans I have to race the ultra trail scene, I don't know if that would happen. So perhaps that would happen at the Olympic trials in February 2016 if that does happen.
So as an athlete and as a coach, like how do you look at when somebody asks you, is it possible to go from road to trail and back and forth? Do you feel like that is a possibility, or do you think that an athlete should just focus on one?
I do, but I think that you have to have focus for the road and for the marathon. You really need to keep your discipline in there, and you need to keep structure in your program. Not that I don't when it comes to the ultra trail scene, but I also know, and I coach myself, so I also know that there's clients and athletes out there who feel like, oh, I'm going to go do some ultra trails because it's a little more relaxed and I don't have to do speed workouts and this and that, which is totally fine. But for me, and for me to be competitive in that ultra trail world, I still keep structure and speed workouts and strength training in my programs. So I think for somebody who perhaps is focused like I am and maybe has an understanding of it, you can go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But it will take discipline in order to do it.
So do you feel a road marathon is tougher than ultra trail running, or do you think ultra trail running is tougher?
I think they both have their toughness to them. I can say physically, if I go out there and hammer down on a good hard road marathon, it takes me about 5 days to recover. Whereas I can run, like when I ran Run Rabbit Run, which was actually 103 miles through the Rocky Mountains, it only took me about 3 days to recover. Now, I'm not speaking of fully recover, but I'm saying no soreness, feeling pretty good kind of
Yeah.
thing. So,
To where you
you
can
know,
walk around and you don't feel any twinges and you're like, all right, I feel all right.
exactly. And of course, it depends on your training and how you've executed that going into each of those races as well. So,
Mhm. So within your training, do you incorporate quite a bit of strength training, or is it a lot of it running and cross training right now?
I strength train a couple times a week. I definitely don't go overboard. A lot of people take a look at me, I think, and think because of my body type that, I really pump the iron. And I've done figure and fitness competitions in the past as well. So I think a lot of people think I'm like bodybuilder type, and I really stick to that. But I don't. I just, I've naturally had broad shoulders my entire life. I have to work at my physique. I have, it's not like it's, especially now in my 30s, it gets harder and harder, and kind of turn around and you're like, what's that? Where'd that come from? So, you gotta keep on that kind of stuff. And I really feel like strength training is an absolute for any type of athlete, just because of the bone density aspect. And I want to be running until I'm 90 something. I don't know if that's in God's plans for me or not, but I'm going to do everything I can to maintain my health in order to do that, in order to stay at my happy place.
Oh yeah, I'll be running until I've got one foot in the grave. So
Yeah.
at least I hope so. So when you were pregnant this last year and still running races and still being very active, and I'm sure you ran all the way through to the end of your pregnancy, did you have people that questioned, like, is that safe? Why are you
Oh, yeah.
doing that?
I actually did a trail race when I was like 8.5 months pregnant, so pretty much all baby. And it was a trail race, but it's a trail that I run on all the time. So to some people, they think that perhaps that's technical. I mean, my husband ran with me. Actually, my doctor ran with me too. And I took my time and had a great time. And I was able to run it actually pretty quickly. So I think that turned some heads, and it, was a no-no to some, especially older ladies who weren't used to seeing that necessarily. In my training throughout pregnancy, we actually did a lot of hiking and camping and more of the fun, relaxed stuff. I did a lot of cardio cross training, and I probably only ran a couple times a week, where typically I run a couple times a day. So for me, it was very backed off. It was very laid back. I actually did 100K when I was 4 months pregnant. Now, I would not recommend that pretty much for anybody else, except for those who truly know their body, who are okay with quitting if they needed to quit, and that's the thing, is people looked at that and thought, I was really working hard and training hard up to this 100K and all that. When the truth is, I actually I couldn't even run the first few months. I was in bed. I was miserable in bed, completely exhausted. And then I started being able to come back and run a little bit, and and like I said, I kept the cardio cross training in there, I kept the strength training in there, and then the last race I did, I actually ran a 24-minute 5K 4 days before Maya was born. So that was my little last thrill before I had her.
You're like, ha, take that.
Yeah, I was actually racing my husband at a local 5K here, so it was fun.
Because I have 3 kids, and I ran to the very end of my pregnancies as well, and there were so many people that would see me out, and they were like, and I wouldn't run a lot, it would just be like you said, like a couple of days a week, but I hiked vigorously, like, because I wanted to be out and active so that I could be back running as soon as I could post baby. And there's so many people that just don't understand that if you exercise before you're pregnant, you can continue doing that throughout your pregnancy, and it helps you that much more afterwards. And it's like, so if you're in that routine, why not stick with it? Because it's so much better for you, for your baby, for everybody around you that loves you, that wants to live with you.
And I don't know about you, but for me, Maya, I would get really crampy if I didn't work out. Like, let's say if I wanted to take a few days off in a row, she did not like that, and I would cramp up pretty bad until I did like some walking or some physical activity. Mm-hmm. So that kind of helped me stay on track. And then, of course, for me, I really researched it and found some great books on it. And then, of course, I have a lot of great elite women who have just had babies before I have too, that could kind of coach and talk me through it as well. But obviously everybody's very different. It's very individualized, and again, as long as you know yourself, then you're fine. But there's so many benefits to exercising through pregnancy, and just how Maya's completely healthy. She was born a healthy weight. I actually carried her more than full term, so it's it doesn't cause, miscarriages necessarily. There's a lot of misconceptions, and unless you really educate yourself with it, which most older population haven't, it's kind of like, shut up, mind your own business, let me do my thing.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is did you pay really close attention to your heart rate?
I did. I didn't, especially at first. I think it's just like racing. It's one of those things where when you're redlining it and when you're not. And that's another thing, I guess, when I say pay attention to your body. Right. And every time I was racing, it was pay attention, is your heart beating out of control kind of thing? Are you too warm? There's certain checklists that you kind of have to ask yourself. Are you cramping? And is it not like traditional runner trot cramping, but are you cramping in an odd way, So it's, again, listening to your body. And a good example of that was I did a trail marathon in Michigan. I went back to visit my family in northern Michigan, and I was 5 months pregnant, and I did a trail marathon. And there was a girl that passed me, and I was actually winning, and then she passed me, and I could have pushed to the end, but it was one of those things where you're like, where I told myself when I'm racing, if I have to ask myself, oh, you can catch her, you can go, or can't you go harder, then I should do the absolute opposite and just relax and have fun. And I think, again, if you're mentally prepared like that, you can run, you can race, and it'll turn out healthy and happy,
Oh
hopefully.
yeah, it's all about listening to your body and being very aware of what's going on. And and it was the biggest thing for me, I think, with my first pregnancy, which was, oh gosh, 12 and a half years ago now. It was like the doctors scared. They were like, you have to wear a heart rate monitor. You can't go above 160. And I was thinking, okay, if I just pay really close attention to my body and watch my heart rate, but it was fine, and it's like you said, though, everybody's different, and you have to be really in tune with what you're doing.
That's the thing is they even said it didn't even really apply to me, and it doesn't even really apply nowadays because
Yeah.
my resting heart rate is 40, and so if I went above 160, I'd probably die anyways or something. So, there's a different, and same with like blood pressure and everything. Actually, when I was in the hospital, they had to adjust all the machines because they kept going off because they thought I was dead or,
Yeah.
I was having trouble or something. So it's just it is one of those things where obviously you want a supportive doctor, but a doctor that's educated with the newer
Yeah.
stuff, I think.
Yeah. Exactly. So one question that popped in my head too when you were talking about training when you were pregnant, because you did a lot of cross training and you did that postpartum just because you weren't totally fully ready to jump back into full-fledged running like you're used to, pre-pregnancy. So will you continue with your cross training?
I have actually a little bit. And part of that is actually weather conditions too, the ice and everything. And always, whether pregnant or not, I ask myself, am I going to get a better workout inside or outside, kind of thing, because obviously I want to be outside. I'm an outside person. I love that. I'll even be outside if it's negative, 15. But there's a point where you're probably going to end up hurting yourself or it's not going to be as good a workout. So then that's when I stay inside. But for the most part, I'm trying to get more on my feet. I'm trying to do more running and get my body back. Because now I feel like it's full-fledged, strong, and ready for that, and it needs to be pushed. It's been 3 months. Whereas I never even planned to run until a month after her, and that was only if everything went okay. And that's kind of how I did it, and I think it's turned out pretty well.
So what would you say is your secret to your success, and that you've always, done really well at all of your races that you've towed the line at? Would you say it was your execution in your training, or would you say it's just genetics, or what would you say the secret is to your success?
I would say learning self-discipline from my family, especially my father and my upbringing, and knowing that I have to work and earn, the things that I want. So with keeping that in mind, I know that it takes discipline and not slacking off in order to, of course, execute the plan. And then, you know, um, ultimately, I think it's just God's will. You can train, as you can train as hard as you absolutely want, and you can go the wrong way 500 times and then end up having a bad race. So it's it's kind of a little bit of luck in God, and then of course self-discipline.
I would say discipline is a huge component to why elites are elite. It's a lot of it is discipline. So after your Run Rabbit Run race, would you say that was? Did you say that was the race where you started to get some recognition, where people started to notice who you were on the scene?
Correct. I had beaten the women's field by 45 minutes, which is pretty huge because it included like Pam Smith and Nikki Kimball and a lot of basically the top women, a lot of the top women. And then 2 weeks later, I actually did UROC as well and competed against Emily Forsberg, who's a foreign elite athlete, Stephanie Howe, and a few of the other big names, and ended up with third place, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You know, so I think with those kind of doubling that up and really really just challenging myself. That's really all I wanted to do. I think that's when it kind of turned some heads and people finally took a look at like what I was doing throughout the year and was like, oh, she's pretty good, huh?
So was that when you started developing some of your sponsors, or did you have sponsors already lined up on the front end of that, or?
Ultimate Direction kind of took a chance and has always believed in me. They were with me from the get-go with the ultra scene because I think they knew me from kind of a road background as well. Goo Energy as well, they've kind of always been there for me. So they've kind of been lifers, I guess. And then I pursued Ice Bike because my feet are so flat that it's hard for me to find a trail shoe with enough stability. So typically I actually wear a road shoe and then I put ice bikes in them for traction. Even on dry trails and everything, I'll just put a couple ice bikes in there for traction. Western states does not allow that though, but USATF does and everybody else. So I'll have to figure out something if I qualify for Western states. But
Not yet. It'll be like you qualify.
And then as I grow and as I go, there's more sponsors. But of course, with sponsorship comes a little bit of work on my end. So I can't really take all of them, and I don't take anybody that I don't believe in. So, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, say that Goo sponsors me and not use their product. I believe in their product. It's, you know, allergy friendly, and I have food intolerances, so that's been great. And then, you know, I've turned down some very, very big sponsors and some very big money, and you know, especially with shoes. With my flat feet and all that, if I don't feel like that shoe company is going to be able to provide me with shoes that I might not get injured with, then unfortunately, you know, I would love the money. My husband sure would love the money too, but it's not worth obviously blowing an IT band out, and you know, and it's not good for them and it's not good for me. So I'm kind of in limbo with some of that stuff.
Yeah, when it comes to shoes, that's a big one for me too. Well, you're on your feet, so why wouldn't it be?
Right.
I'm glad you mentioned Ultimate Direction because they are a great company. You know, they sponsor our USA team, Patagonia, and we're super grateful to be connected with them and have their support on our journey to Patagonia. And I think that they have a bigger vision and they really see the potential in people. So they're a good company.
Yeah, good people. They're like family for me. They listen to your feedback too. That's another thing that's great about UD, and I think that's why they're so successful. Is they take a group of us ladies, for example, and we were all put together for creating the Jenny Vesta, which is the purple vest that you see most women wearing now. And at first, honestly, I wasn't even a believer, and Jenny made me that nice Velcro pocket for my garbage, and then I was like, well, maybe I'll wear it, and I haven't taken it off since. So I mean, I think it's the most efficient, best, you know, hydration gear out there.
Oh yeah, I have a UD pack and I love it. It's the only thing I wear when I'm out for long runs. So share with us really quick your goals for the rest of 2015 before we wrap this call, because I want to. You've got some big goals this year. I like big goals, and I like that you've shared them and put them out there.
I think go big or go home, and I think a lot of people mistake confidence for cockiness, and I also feel like, you know, if you don't put them out there, you're probably not going to get them. So if you put them out there, then you're holding yourself accountable, and there's that self-discipline again where, you know I put them out there and I want them, so I'm going to go after them. So my goals for this year are, the first one coming up would be to qualify for WS, and that's at Gorge 100K, March 28th. The next one will just be shortly after that, not even a month after that, will be in Indiana. I'm going to race Indiana 100. And as long as the conditions are good, I think that I can, and as long as everything goes well with me, I feel like I can for sure get the American Trail record, which was actually just broken in January by Nicole Studer. But then also I want to go for that world record, and I really feel like that's a possibility as well. And that world record was actually set by Ann Trayson on the road, but I feel like it can be done on the trail. And I feel like all of us, Nicole Studer, Liza Howard, there's so many big names out there too that can really, I think, smash both of those records again. So then moving on, I'd like to kill it at Run Rabbit Run and kill it at Western States, and I want records. And then the North Face too, I want the record there, and I want the win there. And I think, God willing and my body able, I think that it's a possibility. So
this year is about breaking records, it seems like.
Yeah, you know, I feel like the win is great. You know, that's awesome. But really, some of those records are my records, and unless you can really improve off yourself, then really what is there? So for me, it's just that battle within, and I have to have those goals. And typically when I run a race, I'll make out 3 goals, and the first one will be, you know, I want this time, and then number 2 would be I want the win. Number 3, I want to be top 5, and I want to beat most of the men. So, you know.
I like that. That sounds like me. But you know, it's always, do you find yourself always looking for the next thing that you want to conquer, like the next big thing?
Absolutely. And the next big thing I think for us too is the Colorado 200 that my husband and I are race directing. Originally, I guess I wanted to create it so I could do it, but then I felt a little guilty for doing it if like leaving it all up to my husband while I go race, you know. So I think this year I should at least probably help him actually run you know, organize the race, and then maybe in the future I'll run it, but I won't race it, you know. So.
That's awesome. You know, I like big goals, and I think that's one thing that people tend to forget is you've got to set the goal, and it's okay to have 3 goals. Like, I like that going into it, because then you have something you're always shooting for and striving for, because otherwise, you know, for me, that's the drive in getting up and training, you know. And when I'm in the middle of a workout and I'm not enjoying it because it's hard, then I think about that goal, and it's like, how bad do you want that goal?
Yes. And mental imagery and visualization is absolutely key, I think, in performing and actually reaching your goals. And the reason why I do the top 3 goals is because sometimes you'll go into a race and all of a sudden it starts snowing or downpouring. Well, you're probably not going to get the time that you want. So instead of just having that one goal and being like, well, I'm not going to get that, so who cares, you know, you have at least a couple backup goals to keep pushing you, so you don't let those demons get in your head too much.
Too much. Yeah, I think you have to be flexible with long course racing, because there's so many things that can happen that if you're not flexible with your goals, or if you don't have 3 goals, then the demons can get to you. So it's important. I'm glad that you mentioned that you have those there, and you have, you know, the 3 goals, or I say, you know, be flexible with your goals, you know, so that you don't let the demons beat you up. Because the fact of the matter is, long course racing, you're going to face demons. That's just the part of the nature of the beast, and that's, I think, is what a lot of the draw is for so many athletes. I mean, I know it is for me. Like, I like to push the limit. I like to see where my breaking point is, you know, because everybody does have a breaking point, but it's finding where it is and pushing past it, actually, is what is so fun.
Yep, and I think that's, you know, what we all thrive for, and you know, what takes us to the next level, you know?
Always going for that next level.
Yes.
So, Michelle, is there anything else that you would like to share with us?
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, actually, a project that we're working on, too, that everybody might be interested in is Becoming Ultra. I was approached by Athlete on Fire, and there's myself and Ian Sharman, who are the coaches for this video project. And Matt Trappy out of Colorado Springs is as the videographer for it. And so it's like an ultra reality show, or so we pick two athletes who've never done an ultra, who have at least some background, and we're gonna create them to be ultra runners. So you can look forward to that. And we do a live podcast too, every Friday. So we will actually have, I think this week, have the athletes picked out, and we're just starting now, so we'll start training them, and then we'll be having the podcast so everybody can follow along to see how they're doing. And they have just a half marathon tune-up race on May 9th. And then they're doing their first ultra, which is a 50K in Aspen, Colorado, so it won't be super easy. But that's in July. So for those who are interested, who maybe are wondering what it takes to be an ultra runner or what it entails, they can follow along and learn some fun stuff. So
that's cool that you're taking a non-ultra runner to become an ultra runner. That's really cool. I love that.
We had to want to do it though, and that was our main thing. I was like, well, obviously time is really tight right now with the baby, so I can't waste any time with somebody who doesn't want to do it. And that's the first and foremost thing that I ask my clients is, why do you want to do this? You have to want to do this, and it can't be because you're trying to impress this girl or because as you just mentioned, there's demons out there, and they're going to come, and they're going to get you. So you need to have this intrinsic motivation to push you past those. So you have to want to do it.
Exactly. Oh, that's perfect. Well, on that note, because I love that, because it is about having that intrinsic factor. So we'll go ahead and wrap this call and let you get back to baby Maya. And if anybody has any questions out there, be sure to email me at coach@prsfit.com. And we'll close it like we always do. You're going to be healthy, train smart, and have fun. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks.